One phone has an almost invisible crease down the center of the device, while the other, not so much. You shouldn't like it. One device's inner display almost goes edge to edge. No borders to be found. While the other, it has a New Year's resolution, I guess. You probably shouldn't like it. One, when it's totally open, lying flat on a surface, well, it's not quite flat, exactly, while the other is almost as flat as you could be. I really don't need to repeat myself here. One comes with an S Pen that makes life a little bit easier and more convenient, also with the ability to open 3 apps simultaneously on the inner display. Also, one allows you to kind of use it as a computer with DeX, trackpad, keypad, fully fledged computer, pretty much. The other, well, it's just a phone. So with two foldable phones, one clearly winning in many of the categories that you would want in a foldable device, you shouldn't like this, right? But here's the thing, you probably will. Both of these devices have some pretty high-end materials and dust and water resistance. Both of them, aside from laying open flat, they both pretty much close as any foldable device on the market. Both of them are, pretty much sealed tight. In terms of the hinge, though, both companies have different names for it and different designs for it. They all, ergonomically kind of do the same thing in terms of opening and holding positions and its firmness. You can't really see much difference. But here's the thing. One phone is a better tablet. And it's pretty clear, like I said in the beginning, which phone that is. But over the months of me using these devices, there was always one that I kept going back to. And let's just be honest, if you're coming from a slab device, you still want a phone at the end of the day. Most of us aren't going to be using our phone all day like this in tablet mode. For the majority of people that are going to take a shot on a foldable device, we're still going to be utilizing that front-facing screen and using it as a phone, and then engaging that tablet mode, maybe if we're going to have a video watching experience, surfing the internet, reading a book perhaps. Using the front display on the Galaxy, it is a very noticeable difference. You do have to make some serious adjustments in terms of that real estate and how you go about using the phone, taking a phone call, sending a text message, answering an email. Whereas the downsides in tablet mode, yes, you have the bezels, yes, you have a little bit more of a crease, yes, it isn't open totally all the way, but you forget those things and you kind of just ease into the experience as time goes by. Whereas it is always noticeable if you're utilizing this front screen to do any type of daily tasks. No matter how long you use it, you're always like, damn, I just wish the screen was a little bit bigger or a little bit wider. Or I wish I had a tiny bit more real estate. So let's just tackle texting and responding to messages. When you use both of these devices, for the most part, when it comes to the Samsung Galaxy, I don't have very wide fingers. I do have bigger hands, longer fingers, but I don't have wide hands. And I still struggle greatly two-hand typing, searching, responding on this device. You are really gonna have to utilize just a one-handed maneuver for the most part. And if you have wider fingers, I don't think this phone would be a great choice, period, whether you're one-handed or two-handed. And that alone is a difficult adjustment for some people and an annoying adjustment for some people. You have to utilize that kind of swipe text motion in order to respond on this device due to the narrow screen. And on the Pixel, you don't have that. You have a device that acts as a phone. You're gonna transition to this. You're not even really gonna notice that you're using a foldable device. Anytime I switched to the Galaxy, I was always annoyed at some point in the day if I was using that front display. And you don't want to be annoyed when you're using your phone, and you definitely don't want to be annoyed when you're using, depending now, the prices, they're always fluctuating, but let's just say a $2,000 phone, you don't want to be annoyed using it. And as long as you use this front display, as beautiful as this phone is, you will be annoyed throughout the day having to use that front display. So let's go to the annoyances of the Pixel. Obviously, I kind of touched on them a little bit, and really, truly, honestly, all the annoyances are just on that open tablet mode of the Pixel. You have the bezels, you have the crease down the center, all phones do. No foldable device is perfect that way, especially the ones here in North America. But it's something that you're going to forget is there. Like I said, the more and more I use this device, I totally forgot that there was a bezel and that there was maybe a little bit of a bigger crease. And the fact that it didn't open totally, I had zero issues with that because you're holding it in your hand like this, right? It's not going to be something you notice. It's still fairly flat. On a table, you see it. In your hands, you're not going to notice the fact that it's technically not flat like paper. One thing that's almost a benefit with those bezels is when you're reading, when I was reading like my Kindle or my Kobo app, sometimes on my Galaxy, because it's almost like a waterfall edge, it's right to the edge, you don't have any place to land your thumbs and hold it as a tablet, so you end up kind of phantom touching things and turning pages or selecting things or stopping a video when you didn't want to stop it simply because there's no place to place your thumbs. I know we're in a day and age where you don't want bezels anywhere on a phone, but I actually think it does actually add some type of benefit because it gives you a place to kind of rest your thumbs. So that, as much as it is a downside, there is also kind of like a hidden benefit. At the end of the day, between these two devices, the downsides of the Pixel are kind of in that tablet mode. And I forget the downsides the more and more I use this device. The only downside really of the Galaxy is that front display. And I never ever forget the downsides of that front display. Every time I use it, I'm always noticing how difficult it is to utilize it as a phone. Another big thing that we will all notice when we're using our devices is our cameras and our video quality. These are very expensive phones. Unfortunately, I do not believe that either of these cameras would be considered, top tier, like one or two. Though they are near the top. For the money we're spending, we might expect to have the best of the best when it comes to cameras. That won't be the case, though I don't think anybody's going to notice nor care. If we are kind of spec daddies and we just want the best of the best of everything and we really don't care whether we notice it or not, then maybe it won't be for you. But I think at the end of the day, most of us are just happy to like have a really good camera, and both of these phones have really good cameras. So let's throw up some images and some videos that I took whilst on vacation overseas so you can see a comparison between the Pixel and the Galaxy. Either phone will make anybody upset in terms of the quality of video and images they're pumping out. So let's get into some other things, some positives, some negatives. One of the biggest drawbacks of the Pixel device that a lot of people say is the placement of the buttons. Is this something that you can kind of force habit yourself from daily use multiple times a day and get used to? 100%. I was thrown off initially by the button placement. I always was pressing the power button as the volume rocker because usually that is kind of how it's situated on many devices. The volume rocker is above. But I got used to it and I was able to train my brain to kind of, when I have this phone in my hand, to go and reach in the proper place. But one thing you are not going to be able to train yourself out of is just that this phone really does need a raising up and a shifting, maybe like a quarter of an inch, a little bit maybe more up on the phone of the buttons, because that volume rocker at the bottom, when you want to lower the volume, when you're just holding the phone regularly in your hands, you really have to flex your thumb all the way down, and you can feel it. It is a thumb workout. You can't train yourself into it. It's just something it is a little bit too low on the phone. This phone could definitely do with a raising and shifting of the button placement. As always, phones are never perfect because they want you to buy the next one. And I'm going to get into that with the Galaxy next, because they're going to add something that makes you want to buy the next one. Unfortunately, they could have done this perfectly. All these phones these days could be done very well, but they always leave something to be desired so they can sell you the next device. Let's get into what the Galaxy is lacking, what they will probably add in another iteration, is that S Pen. This phone has no place to put the S Pen. You need to rely on third-party cases or the official Samsung case. I have the Samsung case, and initially I'm like, this is not bad, I enjoy it. But unfortunately, the Samsung case, when you rub your hand in the back of the phone, you can dislodge the pen very easily. It's supposed to be locked in, but unfortunately, with that case, if you're rubbing your hand across the back, you can spin the pen out with ease. So I haven't tested out any third-party cases, but I would suggest looking for something a little bit more robust to keep your S Pen safe whilst using this device. Another downside is I wasn't a huge fan of the new S Pen. Some of you might have watched my other video. I am not a huge fan of this device simply because I own the Fold 3, and I don't think the experience that this gives is vastly different than the Fold 3. If we want to talk about deals and trade-ins and the values of trading up, that's a different story. But when it just comes to strictly the value of the phone itself, I don't think it was worth it to go up. And another thing that I wasn't a huge fan of, I actually enjoyed the size of the S Pen for the Fold 3. Unfortunately, that would be too big to insert into a phone. So what they're doing is they're trying to get the pen smaller and smaller, kind of, the more traditional size. So at some point, you're probably going to be able to get it into the phone itself. But I wasn't a fan in terms of holding the new S Pen. It is obviously a great convenience to be able to sign documents and use it. I would still pick an S Pen over not having an S Pen, so it's great to have. But again, it's something, leaves something to be desired so they can sell you a new phone, and maybe another downside of the Galaxy 5. The brightness is a huge win for the Galaxy. It is one of the brightest displays, inner and outer, I have ever used. Direct sunlight outside, no issues at all. Huge fan of that. I wish there was a little bit more brightness with the Pixel. Side by side outdoors, it is noticeable, right? It is a noticeable difference. Even though this is fairly formidable in the amount of nits that it pumps out, when you put them side by side, this is just another league. Luckily, if people were iPhone users, some of the iPhones, other generations out in direct sunlight, almost made it unusable outside, even with the brightness cranked. Luckily with this phone, as long as you have the brightness up to maximum, if you're in like direct heavy sunlight above, you're still going to be able to use the phone. The only reason I'm really saying this is because I'm holding them side by side and I'm just telling you. But if you had never seen this phone in action and you were outside and you're like, it's getting kind of sunny, let's just crank up the brightness, you would be fine. There is enough nits in here to get you through if you're out in direct sunlight. So just keep that in mind. I mean, if you're holding them side by side, it's obvious, but you're still going to be able to have an enjoyable, usable experience out in direct sunlight with the Pixel. This next one will be very specific to whoever the user is, and that is the operating systems. Benefit of the Google Pixel phone is that you're going to get all the updates pushed out immediately to your phone. Though with Samsung, they're no slouch either. They do a really good job of getting updates and security patches your way. With the Galaxy Fold 5, you do have that option of having one more screen open when it's in tablet mode. You can have 3 apps running at the same time laid out flat on the screen, whereas the Pixel can only do 2. Obviously over time that may change with software updates and new introductions of operating systems, but When it comes to doing your daily tasks, all your apps, YouTube, Instagram, surfing the internet, Netflix, all that good stuff, this is sped up a tiny bit, but you're literally going to see zero difference in these daily tasks. All very zippy, all very quick. It's known the G2 Tensor on the Google side is not the greatest performing chip out there, but we're at a time in society where even, not the high end top chipsets perform amazingly. And neither of these phones at this point in time carry the best of the best, but you're going to have a seamless, amazing experience in whatever your daily tasks are. All of your apps are going to open like pretty closely. Video games, high intense video games. I'm not a huge gamer myself. You're probably going to see better performance. This is just kind of the loading screen and getting the updates. The Fold 5 finished much quicker. Again, it's kind of known the G2 when it comes to the heavy intense gaming. You're probably going to have a slower experience, so the Fold 5 is going to be the better one there. But when it comes down to it, all these chips are going to be amazing for all of the things you want to do, save gaming perhaps.
So one thing I will say though, there were a couple apps, one specific to Canada, something called Kijiji. It's kind of like an eBay type, but more for in-person selling and trading of things. I did find that, if you were like writing a message and then you kind of swiped up to kind of go to a different app and kept the app open and went back, I lost the progress of whatever I was doing on that specific app. And I'm assuming I haven't come across it again, but you may experience that on some other apps. It still has some work to do. I'm not going to say that's a common occurrence in everything. Like you're not going to be writing an email in the Gmail app and then keep it open and go to another app and go back and lose progress. That never happened. But for whatever reason, that one specific app, that memory utilization just wasn't optimized. And I never had that issue on the Galaxy with their chipsets there. So that's just something to keep in mind. Both very beautiful inner displays. I think I would give the edge. As per the video, there's a lot of things that like this phone is just going to do so much better. And you shouldn't like this phone, but for whatever reason, a lot of people do, and me myself included, I still go to this phone. This is just a beautifully put together device, bright, saturated colors, deep blacks, all the stuff that you'd expect from a Samsung display. The Google display is not as good, but still very good. Really great viewing experience from all angles. I still had a great time watching videos, looking at images, and it's still a really, really great display. Just for my eye side by side, I think I'd give the edge to the Galaxy, but still a very, very, very good inner display and one that I think that everybody else will find is beautiful as well. When it comes to battery life, I will speak on that. If you're just an average user, if you're not a heavy gamer or indulging in like lots and tons of streaming all day, if you're not like that, if you're just like your average user, even though the one has a bigger battery, I think they're very comparable. Are they amazing battery life phones? Probably not, because we're utilizing that kind of mixed use of the tablet and front display. But as an average user, these phones will get you through the day. For myself, with either of the phones, I'll say maybe the Galaxy was a tad bit worse in its performance with the battery at the end of the day. If you were a heavy user, you are definitely gonna have to top up probably both of these phones, though with my experience, I was seeing a bit better performance with the Pixel Fold. So there you have it. Do you use your phone like this? Do you make phone calls like this? Do you take pictures like this? Do you just operate on a daily life like this? If I were asked to sell you either one of these phones or sway you in a store as to which you would buy, it really just comes down to one simple question. How often are you going to be utilizing it as a tablet? I think initially a lot of people that get into this like a blind buy like myself, I love tech, I love phones, I'm a huge phone person, computer person. I expected myself to be utilizing it in tablet mode much more than I actually am. And I think a lot of people probably get into it the same way. I mean, maybe the big time tech YouTubers and stuff are always utilizing it in tablet mode, but I think a lot of us enthusiasts will still be using that front display the majority of the time, because we're going to be using it as a phone and engaging the tablet mode on those occasions when we want to watch a YouTube video, when we want to read a book, when we have maybe some big image we want to look at and expand it. It's not going to be a 50-50 split for the majority of us. And if you are somebody that's going to be getting one of these phones for the versatility and still mainly using it as a phone, there's a no-brainer that you go with the Pixel because, like I said, you're gonna forget those downsides of the inner display, and you're never going to not notice how narrow this front display is. If you're somebody that's going to be utilizing the phone as a tablet the majority of the time, then yes, this is not such a big deal. And of course, this phone is, they're both amazing build quality. The materials are top notch on both. But this phone has had 5 generations to kind of work out the kinks. So you feel that it is a more polished device. So if you're somebody that's going to be a 50-50 or even greater split of using that inner display, you're not going to care about that front. But if you're somebody who wants just the versatility for, like, you know what, I can get rid of my tablet and just carry one device, and when I want that opportunity to watch things or answer emails in tablet mode, I can do that if need be, but I'm still going to be using this generally as a phone, it's a Pixel. The 100% of the way. It's just, you're going to be comfortable with it. You're going to forget about the problems of it. You're going to ease into the experience. Whereas if you use this as a phone, you're never going to forget how narrow this display is. Unless you have very small hands, maybe possibly. But it's just something that, maybe one day they're going to make it a tad bit wider and make it more like a phone. For me, this is why I would recommend the Pixel over the Galaxy. Both are crazy expensive phones. Both are really amazing to use. But if you're somebody that wants to still use your phone as a phone, I think it's a no-brainer, even with its drawbacks, that you go for the Pixel. So, as always, I hope this video was helpful to you. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Love to hear your thoughts. With that, everybody, stay well, be safe, and until the next one, later.